DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
So hi, everyone. Welcome to another installment of Ron Ruth Presents on Disc Jockey News TV. I am your host, Ron Ruth of ronruth.com, and I'm also a Page 6 contributor of Disc Jockey News. And my special guest today, I'm so excited about this, is a good friend and a 30-year veteran of the DJ industry. More importantly, he's also the 12-year producer of the ARMDJs conference coming up June 17th through the 19th in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, which is right next door to Dollywood, which is why I think he actually picked Gatlinburg, because he wanted to be close to Dolly World. And he's actually a great marketer, because you can see right behind him, he's got up on the big screen there. Yeah. The only problem is he's covering my photo, which is, yeah, the one he's pointing at right there. So hi, Robbie Britton. How are you, man?
I am doing great. I am doing great.
It's so awesome to see you, and I'm definitely looking. Oh, look at you! You got your coffee. Yeah, because it is early morning. That people are going to be watching this at all hours of the night and day and stuff. But yeah, for us, it's early morning doing this. So
this
yeah,
is my first day doing a Americano. Apparently, they're a little healthier than a cappuccino, but I still get my 4 shots of espresso, which is good.
So let's talk. I want to talk about a lot of things, man. I've got a list here. So you started DJing. I found this fascinating. You started DJing in 1989 at a graduation party. Tell me about that.
Class of '89. It was just, well, I actually had done some smaller events before that, some birthday parties and things like that. And I think about it now. My first party was just a bunch of gear just laid on a table. Well, there was no internet or anything. I never saw another DJ. I mean, at the high school dance, but there was no how-to or anything. I don't even think Spinning 2000 came out yet. Remember Spinning, the book Spinning?
Yeah.
I think I got a copy of that like 2 or 3 years later, and that kind of changed my life a little bit. I actually got that here somewhere. But yeah, I just...
Well, you were only 19 years old. I mean, how did somebody go, hey, Robbie Britton DJs, you should get him for your party? How did that happen?
Well, okay. So I graduated class of '87.
Okay.
Now, in the area I grew up with, I had a lot of friends that lived in my area, but they were class of '89.
Right.
So I kind of grew up with kids 2 years younger than me. And actually, I was 16 and a senior. So my parents kicked me out of the home at 4 years old and made me go to kindergarten. So I was close to their age, even though I was 2 years, ahead of them. So yeah, I was 16 and a senior and graduated. I guess I started my senior year off at 16. Anyway, so I went to a dance earlier that year for it was a Valentine's dance, and or like we say here locally, Valentine's. So hey, it's local dialect. So anyway, I go to this dance and with my friends, and they allowed people that had graduated, to come to this dance. Right. And I remember 7 o'clock, the DJ wasn't there, and at 7 o'clock, we're like, everybody's standing around. There's no DJ, and then he comes running in with 2 little speakers, sets them down on the edge of the stage, and he had 2 turntables and no lights, and he just got up there and started playing music. I mean, he set up in 5 minutes. Wow. He made up for it. I don't know what the reason was. He was late, but he's playing music and he's rocking a crowd. I mean, he had everybody pumped. And I'm like, I could do that. Which is most of my stories start with, I could do that.
Yeah, I like that.
So, and you'll find that out a lot. So, of course, all my friends laughed at me like, no, because I'm the guy that almost failed English class because I wouldn't get in front of the class to read my report. I mean, my English teacher was like, just sit down. I mean, I was just, And a funny story to that, fast forward to 15 years later, I'm doing a class reunion, and my English teacher was at that class reunion. And, of course, she was sitting in the back of the room hiding, and I'm up there DJing and, rocking the party. And, of course, I had to do some sort of interactive thing where I brought her up front and mentioned about her almost failing me in English class because I wouldn't get in front of the class. And got my revenge on her finally, so that was pretty fun. So she was like, I'm totally surprised that kid in high school that was so shy became a DJ. So it's kind of fun. But yeah, so now that was kind of how the whole thing started. Somebody said, and there was no music stores in my area. I had to go Radio Shack, Rex's, where you get home stereo stuff, things like that. So I'm getting like home stereo speakers. I use my amp for my home stereo to power a couple SP2s that I'd bought used. Can you imagine SP2s running off like a 60-watt amp? And those first couple parties, that's what I did until I discovered there was some pro gear in other towns, you know, and got exposed to what some of the bands were using, and just I learned the hard way. I would jokingly say that I invented the YMCA skit with the hats because nobody showed me how to do that. Nobody. I mean, I invented it. I know I did. I was the first person to ever do the hats with the YMCA.
So you're to blame.
You know, it's just funny how we, you know, in DJs all over the country, in
right.
their little worlds, if you're not connected to what's going on in the world, you kind of, I mean, I had a facade. I guess it's what you facet facade or whatever people call these things. But I started out with it because logically you need to cover up your wires. So I had this big front for my system back in 89, 90, 91, just because logically there needed to be something in front of me that kept people from seeing all these wires. And
yeah, I built my first console so that it was enclosed, so you couldn't see the wire. I didn't have a facade, but I kind of with the same mindset. You have to cover this stuff, so I built the console so it was totally enclosed.
Yeah,
you didn't have to see it. So
I posted a picture online with me and my big mullet, my rock and roll look. And
yeah, I'm loving the one photo of you leading. It looks like a conga line with a mullet. You got the microphone in one hand. You got and it's funny. There is not one guy behind you in this photo. I'm seeing nothing but women.
Yeah,
stacked up behind. You must have been quite the ladies' man DJ.
Yeah, Sweet 16 party for a bunch of kids that went to the local high school, West Green High School, and Warrensburg Community Center. I remember everything about it, and still friends with a lot of those people that are in that line.
So you were, and you say that you're an interactive DJ. What were you doing? And was that a conga line? And was this something you just came up on your own, or was this something you saw somebody else do?
Okay, so this is a you know, when I first started, I didn't even have a mic.
Right.
It was about.
I should have said, let's turn off our phones before we get started. My bad.
I actually unplugged the office phone. So, so I when I first started, no mic. I mean, no microphone at all. And I've still got the original mic. I bought a little mic from Radio Shack that had a little 1/4-inch plug.
Yeah.
You know, and I got me a guitar pedal it was a pitch shift on it, so you could change your voice, high pitch, low pitch.
Oh, no kidding?
Yeah, so you can.
That's awesome.
Because I didn't have the DJ voice then, you know, that we developed. And if you've been around, if you ever trained DJs, there's a moment when you become that talking from
hey,
you know that. Yeah. And you know, I was just this squeaky kid that, you know, just making announcements if I had to. So I got asked to do there was a local right down the road from the General Morgan Inn. There's a building. They had this place called The Wall. It was a teen club. And the guy that DJ'd there all the time his day job moved him to second shift, so he couldn't work Fridays.
Right.
He worked Saturdays. So they got me in to do the Friday show. So I go in, and of course I'm all about gear and lights. And by then I'd had a bigger sound system and had all these, you know, it looked like Spencer's blew up. But it was what I had access to. Homemade cans. You know, I've actually had, you know, cans with the light.
Right.
We all did that back then. So and black lights taped to something. So I did the party and had all the music the kids wanted, and everybody loved it. The people that hired me said, "You rock." I mean, they totally love you, but you need to learn to get out and interact with people. Because the other guy, and is a local guy, Chucky Rader, and he could sing, and he had the look, and he had the style, and he just had that stage presence. And to me, it was a challenge. It was another point of they challenged me and said, the other guy gets out and interacts with the kids. You don't. And I give him credit for he inspired me to become a more interactive. Now, what was interactive? I didn't know. I'd never seen his show. I'd never seen anything.
Right.
Up to that point, all I'd seen is high school dances where the radio station played music.
Right.
You know, when they come in with their little remote or whatever. And I remember the next week I played like the locomotion, the bunny hop, you know, just whatever I could find that was an interactive thing. And it wasn't until a few years later I invented the YMCA dance with the hats. But
Did you have a whole lead in that took to like when I did it? It was like in 1492 Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and then he handed out the sailor hat, and when Columbus landed in the U.S., the first thing he saw was what? It was Indian, so you gave out the Indian thing. Did you do any of this?
So it's 89. So 79 is when the YMCA come out, right?
Right. I don't know. I was just a kid, regardless of when it was. I was very young.
So that first year I did a class reunion, and I grew up AM country. I was AM country. I discovered rock and roll. I had what was the tape club, the Columbia House?
Yeah. Where you for a penny you could buy 200 tapes.
Yeah, that's where I got my cassettes. Still got my cassettes upstairs in storage. So I was at a reunion. They said, "Oh, you got to play the Village People, the YMCA." And I'm like, that corny thing, it's on one of these greatest hits disc I had, and K-Tel or something. It might have been on a record. I don't know. And so I played it, and they said there was a dance to it. I had no idea. I'm telling you. No. And so, again, this was me in that first year of just being exposed to stuff that I just didn't see this. I didn't, So they did this whole, so that was a big deal, was showing everybody how to do the dance. And I took it to school dance and like, all right, we're going to go back in time. We're going to do some disco and do that. Now, the whole hat thing developed within a couple of years. I had a wedding, and the groom was a firefighter. Of course, there was not a fireman in the Village People. We know that, but they said they wanted the groomsman was like, oh, we got to do this thing with him, put him on the spot. We got a little outfit for him with the the hat, the fireman hat and everything. And they wanted me to develop a skit. Now, this is me very early on doing, like, if I did a company event, I would do a 3-legged, race or an egg toss or, again, 89, 90, Robbie, 91, trying to be interactive and not knowing what interactive really was, just really struggling, trying to find stuff I could do that was fun and engage the whole audience. And so I come up with this whole reveal of one guy was the cowboy and the Indian and all that stuff, and then but I did a thing where I had each one show their favorite dance move, which is kind of like the family dance. I think so it's kind of like that. So I had this whole made it a production and then did a photo op. I figured they got the hats. It's a photo op. So I'd have everybody with their disposable cameras taking pictures or whatever. Actually, disposable cameras didn't come on till later. So that was been the photographer with the little cubes on top. So always make sure the photographer had film and flash.
And that you always leave the lights on full until everything is done. The photographer's getting ready to go. Yeah.
So the Village People, for me, this Village People skit was just it was meant to be a photo op, engaging. It was and it was really a fun thing to do. So much so that I had one company I did it for, and the photo of the Village People ended up on the billboard because it was one of the dancers. It was one of their birthdays, so they put it on the billboard in town. So I was kind of known for the next few years of being. And then when Wayne's World came out, here at the Village People skit, I had to really perfect it, and that became a big. I mean, I go in. When I go in skit mode, it's on. And I've done other skits that's similar where you do different songs, interactions, but it's just funny. what you're challenged to do, and that's again. And my story is when you go back, it's usually somebody saying, "Yeah, you can't do that."
So you've come really quite a ways over the past 30 years. You now own an event company. It's Funville, right?
Yeah, Funville Incorporated was 94, 95. Wow. I did fundraisers with Catherine Bike or Cherrydale Farms.
Right.
The school fundraiser deals. And I had a guy that we did these fundraisers for. And for the first couple of years, it was all DJ interactive show. So, this is mid-90s now. And, if you're doing Hip Hop Array or whatever, it's all about interacting with the audience.
Right.
Again, challenging me to be more interactive, to put these shows on during the school day. And then the fundraiser guy would have the money booth and, the whole spin the wheel, give prizes to the kids, that sort of thing. So he had them all hopped up, and then I would do the interaction. And then we heard about somebody down in the Carolinas who set up a moonwalk at one of the parties. So we had that company come in and do a little bounce house, a little moonwalk and then we took that concept of, inflatables are starting to make I guess, starting to rise in popularity with the kids. But we still did the DJ thing on top of it. And that's when Funville was created, because the fundraiser guy bought some inflatables. I bought some inflatables that he didn't have. And we started doing corporate events and just from there. you know. And by this time, I was already DJing company events, you know, for 1,000 people or so, and doing this what I call Fun Olympic Games, the interactive games, which later became Interactive on the Mission.
So you grew rather quickly. I mean, you went from 89 from doing these little like an after grad party to all of a sudden by the middle of within 5 or 6 years you own an event company and you're doing corporate events and such.
Yeah, 94, I started Funville. I cut off the mullet.
Right.
Bought me a suit and
oh man,
that 1 year. I got a haircut and got a real job. Seriously, I cut my hair off, and I just went to JCPenney, got my suit. I was
wow.
I had my business cards, everything ready, and I went out knocking on doors, and that was the big push, just going after business. That was the business side of Robbie, you know, going out and knocking on doors.
Well, I know Greenville, where you live, that's not a huge community. So you must actually have like a reach that goes in all different directions. Tell me about that.
Well, Greenville is a small town, about 15,000 people, and it's been that size forever. I mean, it seems like it's always. Greenville, Tennessee used to be back in its heyday, back in the, you know, late 1800s, 1900s. You know, 1904, 5, 6 was the tobacco hub.
Okay.
This is where everybody came to sell tobacco, and it's a wonder our town didn't take off and become one of the biggest towns in the
right.
state. But the people that with the money kept it kind of choked down. So all this money was flowing through town with the tobacco industry, but it never really grew. It was our neighboring towns that kind of grew.
Right.
So that's a little bit of a little side history of our little town. So we became a little hub, but we're 30 minutes away from so much. I mean, we can be, you know, Johnson City's 30 minutes away. Kingsport's 30 minutes away, Morristown. So in my town proper, 15,000 people.
Right.
But if you're willing to travel, and 30 minutes here, 30-minute drive is, you know, 30 miles, 40 miles, depending on how you drive, unless some fool gets driving the speed limit. But, you know, you can fly. But, you know, and like if you go to Atlanta or somewhere, you know, just to go across the road, it's an hour's drive.
Right.
So I cover a lot of ground in a short period of time, where people in Atlanta, and I'm picking on Atlanta because I've seen it there with DJs that I know, but it's like pulling teeth to get them to go on the other side of the interstate.
Sure.
You know, it's.
So along with this event company though that you have, and you started getting into, obviously on your website it says you do weddings. So at some point you had to make this sharp turn into getting into weddings. When did that happen?
No, my first wedding, it was for friends in 90, 91.
Really?
Yeah. That was, I did some weddings. I remember in 90, I was at a local print shop and was going to have cards printed up, my first cards.
Right.
And the manager for the local country club, Mr. Madden, was in there, and he's a British guy, British accent. And he goes, I'm not even going to try to do the British accent, but he basically said,
oh, come on, please.
No. He was a pretty funny guy, though. But he said that you're a DJ. When you get your cards printed, bring some down. And I told him, I said, I'm not ready for that. I said, when I'm ready, I will bring you the cards. And I think that is probably the smartest business decision I ever made, was I said no until I felt like I was ready. Because at that time, I was not talking. If you did talk on the mic, I had a little pitch shift, making it high pitch or low pitch, or give me that DJ voice by dropping it down a little bit. And I just didn't feel like I was worthy of doing an event at a country club or weddings or anything like that. And then about a year's time, I went to the country club, brought him some cards. He remembered me, and he had so much respect that I waited a year before I brought him the cards. And I said, I'm ready now. And I practically lived there until the General Morgan Inn opened up some years later. Yeah.
I love your website from the standpoint of your slogan, I guess, your motto. No, it's your slogan on your wedding webpage. It says incredibly simple to simply incredible. That's a pretty cool slogan. Where'd you come up with that?
I stole it from Larry Williams.
You stole it from who?
Larry Williams, right here.
Okay.
He's in the front and center, the TED style talks. Yeah, totally ripped it off from him. And that didn't come to. I was here recently that I did that. I'm getting to the point now where I'm wanting to bring in the next generation of DJs. And back going back to late 90s, it was me, and I had the multi-op thing going.
Right.
But in 2001 or 2, right before I started ARMS, I was starting to, I guess it was 2000, ARMS was about 2008, 2007. So about 2006, I started downsizing to become a single op again. And of course, the first ARMS was built around Mark Farrell, the whole getting what you're worth thing. So I was, I was like working my butt off, but I wouldn't make any money.
Right.
And my guys that were working for me, they were kind of looking at, they were at the stage in their lives where they wanted to move on. So I just went single op and did that whole thing. So over the last 12 years, I've been that single op doing just with the branding me. And then here recently, I'm starting to train this next generation of DJs, and I'm like, how can I show the difference? And that's where I had seen Larry had used that.
I like it. I think it says a lot in a matter of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words. It's 5 words that is very descriptive as to exactly the level of service that you're going to get. And I like the way it's described on your website with the simply incredible is you, obviously, if they book you, and there's a lot of perks to that, and then the incredibly simple. It makes a lot of sense to me, and it's easy for customers to understand, which is the other thing I really like about it. It's that so many DJs go out of their way with go all out with. I have the basic package, and then the gold package, and the platinum package, and then the moon rock package, and they have to try to describe each and every one of them. But I love how you broke this down into something that's just bite sized, and it's very easy for people to understand. So at some point at some point in your career, you had to look in the mirror one morning, I'm guessing, and you had to say, you got to learn more. There's got to be there's more to what I do than what I'm doing. I need to find that kind of training to help me take that next step, because you can't move forward if you just allow yourself to stagnate. So you had to at some point go, I gotta make this next step. When did that happen? Started getting training.
I call this that spark.
Okay.
That turns you on to being a lifelong learner.
Okay.
There's a point. I mean, early on, I read a couple little books or tried to get through some business books. And I thought, different things, and just kind of took what I felt like I needed, but I didn't. It was more to confirm what I knew up to that point.
Right.
It was to grow. It didn't make me uncomfortable at all. It was very comforting. It was what the knowledge that I was bringing in, and the moment and I remember this very clearly. It was on Disc Jockey America, TJA, back in the forum before Facebook and everything, and Randy Bartlett recommended Harry Beckwith's Selling the Invisible. Right.
Great book.
And now I picked up the book. It was an easy read.
Sure.
When I got done, I could not wait to read another book or to learn something, to go, it just that. And this was about the same time, if I'm not mistaken, it's about the same time that I'm on the forums, and I remember reading about this thing called Mobile Beat that was going on, and and everybody was talking about going to this thing in Vegas, that sort of thing. And I remember that year. This is probably about 2000, 2001,
sure,
2002, somewhere in there. And excuse me. And me and Brian Graham being in Knoxville, just up the road from me, we had bumped into each other on DJA. I saw he was from Knoxville,
right?
And again, if you know me at all, I seek people. Once I see that there's a common denominator between me and somebody, I seek to develop that. And as quick as I discovered that Brian was just down the road, and we're on we had this common interest with DJ.
Sure.
I went and seeked him out. I went to Chili's, and we did lunch one day. Drove up there on my dime just to hang out, and got to know each other. And we're both like that February or whatever, when Mobile Beat was, we heard people talking about all this stuff going on, and we're like, we're missing out. We need to save our money and see what we can do to make it happen, to get to that. We need to be there. We hear, little conversations on the forums and now on Facebook.
Right.
But man, until you jump into that mix, it's life-changing. And for us, and we both, made that journey together. We went to Mobile Beat, and and it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't if Randy, whoever this guy was, this Randy Bartlett guy, hadn't recommended this book called Harry Beckwith's Selling the Invisible. It really caught, just lit a spark, and then really from there it was just, here we go. And it's funny, the first year I went to this conference, I didn't know anybody. I'm in the back of the room. Me and Brian, we're in the back of the room, and we don't get the jokes. We have, these old guys, Roz and Chuck Leonard, Drax and Peter Murray. They're just on the stage doing their thing. We don't have a clue. Fast forward to 10 years later, me and Brian are on stage telling the jokes that nobody's getting in the back of the room. So we got involved, and we just kept working our way up from the back of the room, middle of the room, eventually the front row, to where we just got involved, with the American Disc Jockey Association, with Mobile Beat, and it's like a calling for me to get someone inspired to this thing that just changed my life in Vegas. The fellowship of hanging around these people and the communication and stuff.
Right.
And that's where it got me to, even thinking about doing ARMS was, let's bring it to this side of the country, down in the Southeast. Let's do something that's accessible to these people.
And it's funny because there's something about, you talked about, you read Harry Beckwith Selling the Invisible, and that makes you want to read another book. And the same, there's something about, once you pick up a little bit of knowledge, all of a sudden it's like opens the spigot where you want more, and you want more, and you want more. And what you discover is the more you read and the more education that you garner, the greater your value, because you're able to, you speak more articulately, you are able to present your services in a completely different manner than what you ever have before. And you're actually able to not only build and grow your business, but you're also able to increase your own salary as far as that goes. Everything kind of builds. If you're going to own your own business, you're going to be a full-time DJ, you have to be able to make a learning part of your day-to-day routine, just as you would doing your accounting work. You have to read something or watch a video or whatever the case may be. So this all brings us, though, because with all of this newfound inspiration, if you will, about learning, then you decided, as you just said a few moments ago, you decided that it was time to bring this knowledge to the eastern part of the U.S. In Tennessee to your neighborhood, and that's where ARMDJs began. What was it, 12 years ago?
Yeah.
And ARMDJs is an acronym for what?
The American. I'm sorry. The Appalachian. We did the American thing. We did the tour. So the Appalachian Regional Mobile Disc Jockey Symposium.
And it's Appalachian. What was it? Appalachian. So it's not Appalachian.
No, Appalachian. You got to speak the local dialect.
I saw somewhere you had posted online the exact how it's pronounced, and I've tried Appalachian. It's hard to say Appalachian.
When I was looking at my area, I'm like, what describes my area?
Right.
And I'm looking at Mountain Empire and all these different things, Eastern Tennessee, whatever. And I want it to be regional, and everybody feel like in this region. So my marketing is initially a 2-hour radius of Greenville, but up to about a 4 to 5, when it was a 1 day, it was a 2 to 3 hour radius. Right. And now that it's about a 3-day, we have about a 5-hour radius that we target. Now we have people from literally other countries that come to this conference, but that's a bonus. But our marketing and really what we're trying to bring value to is for the people in their area and bring them that exposure to what I learned back in 2000, 2001, 2002. It's so awesome when you see that spark. And again, Alan Bracken was one of the presenters I've had a couple of times. He's in our area. He does business coaching. He's John Maxwell certified speaker. And anyway, he talks about being a lifelong learner, and man, he nailed it with that lifelong learner. When you up to the point I read Harry Beckwith, I might have read 4 books. Right. The Hobbit. You know what I'm saying? The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I read that whole series. I devoured that pretty quick. So maybe 10 or 15 books, but nothing to better myself. It was just
right.
And when the Harry Beckwith was what keyed me to be a lifelong learner. And one thing that's kind of my addiction. I love it when my eyes are open to something I did not know. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to learn how to do something better, but
right.
Figuring out, because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And that moment hits when you're like, there's something I need to learn that I didn't know I need to learn. Just didn't know it was out there. Didn't know it was available. And that just blows my mind, with mixing and, like DJing, mixing key. That's just something I've heard, but I didn't know anything about it until I really got it. And then, so, and when I took the Mark Farrell, the first generation of his MC workshop, in the class, my biggest takeaway was things that I had no idea that I didn't know. I know how to talk.
Absolutely.
I know how to work a crowd. I've been in front of 10,000 people before. No big deal. But there's things that I learned. Now I didn't master. At that moment, I didn't get a whole lot better. But at least I was turned on to the fact that you don't know what you don't know. And
absolutely.
That just lit me up. I remember just taking notes like, okay, that's great. And then I went and seek to be better at that, to have that stage presence, to do little things.
And in the beginning, speaking of Mark Farrell, that was your very first. I mean, when you dove into this idea of bringing the content to your neighborhood, you dove in head first with Mark Farrell. That was your first presenter. Then you had, I know that you've had a number of other presenters, like Michael Port, who wrote Book Yourself Solid. Michael Port is like one of my heroes. And for listeners, I'm just going to tell you right now, and for people watching this, I would say to you, if you've never read, if you want to be a serious business person, read Book Yourself Solid. You have to do it. Just like you have to read Selling the Invisible. You also had Gary Vaynerchuk, who is like an internet superstar.
Yeah.
You and Jeffrey Gitomer, who is the sales guru. What other big names have you brought to ARMS?
Larry Williams.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah, I forgot about Larry. I'm sorry. I can take that out in post production.
No, he's okay. Again, my fire of being of learning,
right,
and everything. I remember seeing what was going on at Mobile Beat. Very inspired with that,
right,
and wanted to bring it to my area. And at that time, I went to a single op. Heard the Get Much message. Actually saw it presented in Vegas. So I was on fire to that, but none of the DJs in my market got it.
Right.
And it's hard to start raising the bar when nobody else realizes there is even a bar to raise.
Right.
And I wanted to bring Mark Farrell to my market. And that's when, golly, back in, was it 80, I guess 2007, he was traveling the country in his Winnebago or something. I don't know if you remember that. And it just
on the work tour.
Yeah, he was doing it. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, when can I get him? And June. Now, me personally, my event company, end of May is into the school year stuff. I'm rocking. I'm 7 days a week, with events.
Right.
June is, I'm rocking weddings. So it's a really hard time to do something like that. And I get it. People are busy, doing events. But it just worked out that the day after Father's Day, he was available to pass through our area. And I'm like, let's bring him in. But I knew his name alone wouldn't pull people into my market.
Right. Unless you were a DJ, you really probably didn't even know who Mark Farrell was.
Nobody. Well, Brian Graham was the only DJ in the market that knew who Mark Farrell was, or any of these guys. So I knew just from doing events that I needed to build this content with the education that's being delivered. The brand names weren't going to sell.
Right.
And again, Facebook wasn't a thing then. We were still Disc Jockey America and all those other chat forums that was going on. So I was basically told that, the regional thing couldn't happen. It won't work. So, all right. So I did it. Brought Mark Farrell in. Jim Cerrone and his, subject matter was something I knew that people could take.
Perfect host.
A big draw was bringing in Scott Favor.
Absolutely.
People in my area had no idea who he was.
Party Favors.
Favor is known for the whole, interactive game thing.
Right.
And, that's something you can take that weekend and learn. So I brought him in, and Larry Williams had Drax with the ADJ, and I branded it as an ADJ event because I wanted to show the ADJ that you could do regional events, and we could do it in a little place like Greenville, Tennessee.
Right.
Now, the other side of this that was in it for me was I was involved with the local chamber, and I was on the tourism advisory committee, and I'm like, this is a good excuse for me to create an event to bring people in to see our little town. So we kind of worked both ends of it with the General Morgan Inn, the chamber. We had little packets that everybody that signed up, we sent them information about the 17th president was here, the one that Abraham Lincoln chose.
Right.
And the whole history in the area. So a lot of people like that too. So we did the big announcement on April Fool's Day, April 1st on DJA. Everybody thought it was a joke. They're like, that I was building up, with Larry Williams kicking it off. He had this presentation that changing public perception.
Right.
It was really kind of hitting you in the face that this is what the people, the public thinks these days. And then we ended it off with getting what you're worth. So the whole day told a story and had little bits of stuff inside of it. And we had like 45, 50 DJs that showed up for this event.
Right.
And it just took off, and enough local people were there. And I've got testimonials of local DJs that were $300, $400, $500 for a wedding that before it, and then went to over $1,000 after it.
Sure.
And then we started an ADJ chapter along the same time.
Right.
And rising tide raises all ships. And the average DJ in our market was over $1,000 in little Greenville, Tennessee, where it was $400, a few weeks before that. So really excited about how that done. And it took off. It was a one-time deal, but it went so well and was so well perceived. Again, it was like preachers talk about a calling. It was a consuming calling for me. It was just, I couldn't not do it. And I agreed to 3 years. I'm like, I'll do 2 more years. And we'll see what happens. And if I at least break even on the 3rd year, we'll look at it from there. And so we did 3 years. And on the 3rd year, I had enough money left over to buy a cheeseburger. And then I went to the 2-day format after that, because I knew one day would only pull a certain area. Let's go 2 days, basically 3 with a pre-party,
right.
And market a little further out. And word was getting out. And so we did that. And, by the 5th year, I made a promise the first year that one day I could see us having Gittimer, because I was all about reading Gittimer. And I was like, I could see us having Gittimer. And by the 6th year, we had Gittimer. So that was pretty cool. That the 5th year I was able to announce that we got Gittimer coming. So.
Well, it's funny because a few years ago, I wrote an article for Disc Jockey News TV, or Disc Jockey News, I'm beg your pardon, about ARMDJs, and it was actually before it was from your 8-year conference. And one of the things I wrote from talking to you at that time is that most of the people that you bring in because they satisfy your hunger for a particular subject. It's not a matter of I want Gittimer because I want Gittimer, and people will follow. If you build it, people will come. Kind of like the Field of Dreams, and I find that's pretty fascinating. That a lot of the people that you bring into your conference are people that you're most interested in seeing, and you're wanting to share this with everyone else. It's kind of like inviting people into your home and saying, "Here, I brought this for you because I love it, and now I want you to love it too."
Well, Henry Ford is famous for saying that if you ask people what they wanted, they say faster horses.
Yeah.
So I've never really, I put fillers out there, but I've always just what I think. I mean, it's kind of like when I'll do a lineup, it's like putting a mix together.
Right.
Brick House, what's next? Play that funky music, whatever. What's going to blend with it? What's going to fit well? So again, that first year, it was starting with changing public perception with Larry Williams, and it ended with Mark Farrell getting what you're worth. And everything, it kind of told a story throughout that day. I mean, we had Jim Cerrone really putting, the class in the whole event. What I'm saying? Just it was such people that had never been to these things were like, wow, this is cool. This is, and the people that had been to them before were just wild with the production, the way everything just flowed. And it was very, shooting from the hip, but it worked. So over the years, every year I've kind of had a subject, a thing. And this year, my thing was actually, let me see here. Jog my memory here. So Richard Mills,
Right.
He's been through some things in his life. I mean, and I remember Richard from Vegas and hanging out with him, getting to know the guy, and from the forums, the DJ forums and Facebook and all this stuff over the years. So he's had, some things happen in his life, and I'm like, man, he's got a story to tell.
And Richard is from Australia as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I'm like, I messaged him and I'm like, you've got a story to tell. I don't know what it's going to be, and I'm not going to tell you what I want it to be. I just want you to come to this event. And boom, he was first. And he thought about it for about a week, and he came back and goes, I'm in. And he goes, okay, exactly what you want me to talk about. You've got something, I'm telling you, you got a story to tell. Just tell it, and I kind of used the draw too. I remember him saying, when he came to Vegas, I think he rented a Mustang convertible, if I remember correctly, and he drove all up and down California and, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. He toured around with it because he was all about the Mustang and the muscle car and all that. And so I'm like, maybe the East Coast will be a draw for him. Maybe we could bring, that'd be a good thing. And, oh yeah, I think he might be in the States now. I don't know.
Unlike a lot of conferences, this is something where you can actually go and you can have a wonderful time just getting to know people, let alone absorbing all the information that's being thrown at you. Robbie, thanks so much for your time, man. As I said, we went way over, and I took way more of your time than I had anticipated. And thank you so much for giving of your time today. And I look forward to seeing you again. Let's run it one more time. You can get tickets by going where?
ARMDJs.com, ARMDJs.com. Everything's there. A little bit about the location in Gatlinburg, the hotel, flying into Knoxville. It's only about a 40-minute drive to Gatlinburg. If you're flying in, you probably know somebody that lives in the area that can bring you down. I mean, there's DJs that we have that will be, available to give somebody a ride if they need it or whatever. And again, it's 40 minutes. It's not that big of a deal to drive. And because if you go to Vegas, it takes 30 minutes to get from the airport to the Strip.
Right.
So it's really not that far.
And then this is actually happening on June 17th through the 19th. So it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday conference. Anything else you want to add? Is there anything I've missed?
Well, people talk about, it's in June, the busiest time of the year. We do this. The education content is on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Right.
Tuesday and Wednesday. Man, I can plan. I host this conference and I could still have an event Friday and, or Saturday or whatever. And I've done it before. So we do that. Now, again, people come in early, they hang out. Some people are going to be there 5 or 6 days. But if you're just wanting to come in for the content because you are busy, you can literally, travel on Monday and be there that evening for the pre-party. And then Wednesday, when it's done, like you said, it's over early enough that most people are within a 5-hour radius if they're driving. Atlanta is 4 hours away. Louisville, Kentucky's 4.5, maybe 5 hours away.
And it's only 12 hours from Kansas City because I looked it up, and that's what I'm driving. So
driving that, Tennessee is long. Tennessee. So yeah, there is a promo code if you go to the ARMDJs Facebook page. I'm not going to put it on the video because the promo code is only good for another week. So go to Facebook and scroll through. You'll see a promo code. It's going to be to the end of the month, and then it's gone. So we'll just let people, go to Facebook and find that, or just message me on Facebook. I'll let you know what the promo code is. I
was actually going to say, even offer to do that myself. Say I have the super secret promo code if you want it. So just send me an email through Disc Jockey News. Robbie, again, thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you in just a matter of a couple of months.
Yeah.
Not even that, really, from the time that we're talking now.
Yeah.
And for the rest of you, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time, y'all. Bye-bye.